Hi, Conan at Project Music here again, and I'm joined by Ben for another comparison video. Today we've got some lovely Gretsch guitars to go through. They are all kind of based around the same style of model, so the sort of larger Hollowbody style. And basically the three models we have today are going from Streamliner to Electromatic to Pro series. So we've got the Streamliner, which is the 2410, and this one's got the Broadtron BT2S pickups in it. Then you've got the Electromatic, which is this one just over here. You can just see the headstock, which is the 5420T, which has got the FT5E Filtertrons in it. And then you've got the lovely Azure Blue Metallic Pro Series 6120T, which has got the FT67 Filtertrons in it. So as usual, we will get Ben to play through each one of these on the same settings, bit of drive, bit of clean, things like that, just to kind of hear the differences, the core differences between the guitars other than the pickups. Of course, you know, build level as you go up when it comes to woods and all that sort of thing. It is a bit of a step up as you go through each range. Also, hardware is a bit different. So you can see on the Streamliner, for example, you've got some more straightforward knobs. The pickups are more sort of, they're not official Filtertron style pickups on this one. They're more like a humbucker middle ground sort of idea. Still great sounding pickups. And obviously the kind of import style Bigsby. Then obviously on the Pro and the Electromatic, you have the kind of the higher end hardware, including on the Pro series you actually have locking tuners on these guys as well. So that's kind of a quick rundown on the main differences. Now you're a fan of Filtertron pickups, aren't you? I know you've got a guitar with them in. What are you expecting to find differences between these guys?
I think the actual Filtertrons will be brighter, and again the mid-range will be in a different place. I think they're a funny pickup, aren't they? They're it's quite hard to pigeonhole what they come between, because I was saying earlier that they're almost closer to a single coil and a P90 is in terms of tonality, but also nothing like a single coil.
It's like that elusive fourth pickup sort of sound that everyone goes after. And I think it's, you know, Gretsch has been around for such a long time with that sound, but they are probably the pickup that is talked about the least, which surprises me, because every time we do a video on a guitar with Filtertrons in, I'm always like, oh man, that guitar sounds so good. And you know, I know that your telly that's got Filtertrons in it sounds awesome. Like, really, it's such a versatile piece of kit for kind of anything I've heard you play on it. It works really, really well. So it's almost surprising they don't get as much.
More people need to use these guitars for jazz, I think, because they're to my eyes they do jazz so well, especially with awesome tone off. They retain clarity better than humbuckers. But you don't see enough do that. Jazz gigs, I've got flat ones on that telly, and I do jazz gigs with that guitar.
Yeah, and it works really well. Fantastic, excellent stuff. Well, maybe on one of the jam sections, maybe on that one, you can go full jazz, so we can really hear what it does, and we'll go from there. Well, we'll get started. I think we'll start with the Streamliner, and then we'll go over to Electromatic, and then up to the Pro series, and we'll see what tones we get from these Filtertron loaded-esque guitars, and we will go from there. So, what do you guys think? Did you have a favourite of the three? I think quite clearly in the room we had a favourite when it was being recorded. I think they're all brilliant at their price point. Like, obviously it's that classic thing, you start with the cheapest one and you work your way up. And the cheapest one at the beginning, the Streamliner, we both went, oh, that sounds pretty good, that sounds really nice. You were quite impressed with actually how it played.
Yeah.
You know, we haven't done a huge amount with setups on these, we just made sure that they were playing pretty well. I think you were quite happy with how it felt in the hands and things like that. What did you sort of notice was the biggest difference from a playability point of view as you went up through the ranges?
I think they all feel like the same guitar, obviously, because they are the same shape and construction-wise. I think you can tell the difference in the hardware, so I don't know, less of a feel thing, but obviously tuning, it was harder to keep maybe those two in tune.
Yeah.
And obviously locker machine heads make a big difference, and I'm usually an anti-locker machine heads kind of guy, but not anti, but I don't have any of them on my guitars.
It's not something that you jump to do straight away on your guitars or anything like that.
Yeah.
No, that makes
But
makes
they
sense.
feel great. I mean, all of them, playability-wise, set up about the same. They feel like good guitars, and they are good guitars. I think tonally is the biggest difference. Absolutely.
No, I completely agree. I think listening to it from my point of view, from the other side, there was a refinement as you went up to, from the Streamliner to the Electromatic. I felt like I could just hear more in the notes. There was more note separation. There was more there for my ear to latch onto that sort of enjoy in between the actual main notes there. And then again, it was the same as you stepped up to this guy. There was I'm trying to think of the best way to put it. I guess there was an extra bit of harmonic information from this guitar.
Yeah, definitely.
That I guess you do get that when you look at it. It's the same with high-end acoustics and things like that. It's got more information to kind of pull from, I guess, and you could almost tell when you were playing it as well. Like, obviously you can hear it too. You've got a way better ear than me as well, so you were probably going, oh well, I can hear these extra things. I'm going to go this way, and I think it probably informed your playing a bit as well.
It definitely does. Yeah.
And it was cool to kind of hear those differences, because essentially they are, the construction of them is incredibly close.
I think I was surprised at how much that brought it out of me. I was expecting this to bring it out of me and be like, oh yeah, okay, I can hear it.
Yep.
But I think it's obviously the jump from humbucking darker pickups to the sparklier Filtron sound.
Yeah, because I guess that's something that I can't remember if I mentioned it in the intro a bit, but the BT pickups in the Streamliner are essentially a humbucker that looks a bit like a Filtertron, whereas these are actually a filter much closer to a kind of an original Filtertron style pickup, as are these, and these are kind of a modern interpretation of I guess classics. So it is quite different tonally. Straight away it didn't sound bad in the room first of all, but as soon as this one got plugged in, there was more top end information. It was just more balanced. I think overall it wasn't as muddy as
It sounded more like a Gretsch.
That's a good
to
way
me,
to put
the
it.
Gretsch sound is that Filtertron Dynasonic sound. They have that because the body shapes are naturally darker because of the big semi-hollow body. The Filtertron is ideal at bringing that top end clarity out of the body a bit more. So maybe the humbuckers in that guitar, you could hear a bit more of the muddiness. Maybe not necessarily in a bad way. Again, I've said this in a few videos we've done. I'd be interested to hear the lowest end guitar with the highest end guitar's pickups in it. Yeah. Because I think it would help. Yeah. It still wouldn't sound the same, I don't think, but it would close the gap. It would
close the gap. I think it's a big thing. I think it's why something like this at your kind of sub £1,000, we sell so many of them, because a lot of people, they can't step up to the £2,500 Gretches, obviously not just Gretches, but in general, but they want a really well built instrument that overall might be lacking a tiny bit in its pickups, but of course for a couple £100 you can then add the pickups and it's still cheaper overall, and you'll like you said, closing that gap. Because the build quality of this is fantastic. Like this was fresh, completely fresh out of the box.
Feels great.
I think we basically tuned it up and then dropped the action by a tiny bit more to match the other guitars than anything else. It was just we didn't really need it as such, but it was just to make sure we were being as close as we could from a comparison point of view. And I've just played it, just sort of unplugged it. It feels great. It feels fantastic. It was really good in the hand. And
that was the most surprising one.
Yeah, I think both of us have really gone, hang on a minute, this is kind of, so it sounds bad, almost more than we expected, but I guess we get a lot of high-end guitars through our hands, so we're almost a bit spoiled with some of the stuff we get to play. And you don't forget about the cheaper guitars because we're dealing with those all the time too. But when you actually sit and scrutinise, I guess, sit in a room and really think about it more than just a quick couple of seconds in the hands, like this one has jumped out and made me go, oh wow, you know, you can really get a hell of an amazing Gretsch for not too much money.
Yeah,
Really.
it's not that far off. I
No.
mean, harmonic content, but in terms of feel, playability, the Bigsby's feel great on all three of them.
Yeah.
Not much difference. If you blindfolded me, it would be hard to tell the difference between these two.
Yeah.
I think even unplugged, that one sounds a bit darker.
Yeah.
But yeah, there was nothing playing wise. I was like, well, that feels a bit off. Or
Yeah.
It just feels like a Gretsch to me.
Fantastic. Yeah, I think they do such a great job, these Electromatics, and it's kind of, it's one of those companies that for a lot of people it's not necessarily the first guitar they go to. Obviously Strats, Tellys, Les Pauls, all that sort of thing. But as I hope you heard in those clips, they're pretty versatile. You know, clean, gain. I think they can handle a lot more than people give them credit for. They also look fantastic.
Yeah, so
don't
cool.
they? Let's be honest here, especially in the Project Music colours.
Yeah.
Orange and blue.
Yeah.
I think we planned that quite well, didn't we?
Yeah.
And yeah, I think if you want to pop some comments down below of which ones do you think were your kind of, which one was your favourite of the three, and if there's anything that you found sort of tonally that was kind of real obvious differences to you guys on the outside, because it's really interesting for us to hear what you think on the recordings too. It's good for us to know what you're being able to pick out with these comparisons, because for us in a room it's quite obvious straight away, and in the recording sometimes we just it's always hard to know whether people are actually hearing those differences. Obviously, something we did mention at the sort of in the intro part was how good they are for jazz. So once we finish rambling on about all the specs and all the things on our thoughts, there's a bit of a clip of Ben having a good old play in a much more jazz context on this guy, and it sounded fantastic. So as always, thank you very much for listening to this one, and obviously if you can subscribe, that would be fantastic because it helps us out, and we'll do some more comparison, some stuff in the video, and we'll see you guys soon.
Cheers.